Owning a home might just be one of the most exciting milestones one can achieve. After all, a home is a huge investment, both emotionally and financially. It's a place where you can raise a family, make memories, and build your future. But, as with any other investment, there's always the potential for things to go wrong. There are a lot of risks that come with owning a home, but there are also a lot of rewards. Ultimately, it's up to you. Pennywise, the channel focuses on exploring wealth and increasing savings through life-changing practices about personal finance, money earning and management tips, avoiding hoaxes, and so much more. Our goal is to equip you with a Pennywise mindset through your journey to fund and help you experience the life you desire. So please join us on this exciting adventure by clicking the subscribe button below. A house might be a valuable tool for accumulating wealth. Of course, there's nothing wrong with reaching the milestone of home ownership. But is a home an asset or a liability? Let's examine the question to get a clearer picture. Before deciding if a house is an asset, it's important to understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Here are the basics. An asset is something that gives you money, while a liability is something that costs you money. Let's expand on those definitions. What is an asset? An asset must, in fact, boost your bottom line rather than add to your expenses. With that in mind, assets might be anything from equities to bonds to cash in your bank account and physical qualities. Assets are frequently worth more as time goes on. What is a liability? A liability, on the other hand, is something that you owe. A liability is a cost that you have to manage rather than a boost to your income or net worth. Liabilities can include debts that are still owing or legally required payments that will continue in the future. So, is your house an asset or a liability? Is your house an asset now that you're better acquainted with things like assets and liabilities? In most cases, the answer is no. Unfortunately, your primary home isn't a good investment. That's because you will be unable to profit from the appreciation of your property while residing there. If you plan to sell your house within a set period of time, the answer may be different. But when your house is your primary residence, maintenance expenses create a liability instead of an asset. The interest on your mortgage will add up quickly over time. This means you need to be careful about how much money you make from a potential sale in the future. The costs will reduce the amount of money you make. Can your house be an asset? Even though your home may not be an asset, that doesn't mean property can't be an asset. In fact, physical property can be a very profitable investment. If you decide to invest in real estate, you'll quickly discover that properties may be excellent assets. You may capitalize on appreciation or positive cash flow by taking advantage of these assets depending on your technique. You can turn your primary residence into an asset through a strategy called house hacking. This means that you use your home to make money. If you want to use house hacking, you'll find a unique approach to cover the cost of your mortgage. You may convert your home into an asset by renting out an extra room rather than making single payments with your regular income. For example, you might buy a multi-unit property and rent out the remainder of the units. Alternatively, turn your unused bedroom into an inviting Airbnb accommodation. In either case, you could potentially save money on your housing expenses ultimately. However, if you don't house hack, your primary residence isn't really an asset since it costs you money. Remember that you can transform your home into an asset through house hacking. Is home ownership still a good choice? You now have the information you need to decide if your house is an asset. But even if your home falls into the liability category, is home ownership still a good choice? Overall, home ownership is still a good financial choice for the majority of individuals. You will continue to improve your long-term financial health as you build equity in your house. Additionally, your house is an excellent method to transfer generational wealth. If you want to utilize your home as a means of passing down money, you'll also need an estate plan in place. Otherwise, the equity you build up in your property may not be effectively handed down to your loved ones. Is it better to buy a home or to rent one? In many cases, a house is not an asset. However, that doesn't answer the question of whether you should rent a place or buy a home. Although you might be tempted to skip home ownership if the house isn't an asset, that is not always the right move. There is no perfect answer to this question. It depends on your specific situation. Let's take a look at some different scenarios. If you have a good handle on your finances and intend to stay in one place for at least a few years, then purchasing a house may be the best option. You'll be able to build equity in your home rather than paying rent. Plus, you could also speed up your financial success by pursuing the possibilities that house hacking presents. If you are working to improve your finances but are not quite stable yet, then it might not be the best time to buy a home. You don't want to lock yourself into a long-term mortgage payment if your finances are not stable yet. If you plan on moving in the near future, it might be a good idea to skip buying a house and rent instead. This will give you more flexibility and could save you money in the long run. If you are seriously considering ownership in the future, don't buy a home that exceeds your budget. Regardless of where your finances are, you should always avoid being house poor. A person who is house poor is someone who theoretically can afford monthly mortgage payments, but in reality cannot afford everything else. Don't put yourself in a vulnerable financial position. The bottom line. A property can definitely be an asset. However, your main residence is not likely an asset unless you've chosen to use a revenue-generating technique like house hacking to turn the tables on this long-standing liability. Even if your house is not an investment, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy home ownership. You need a home to live in, and even if your property isn't an asset, you should be proud of yourself for achieving home ownership. If you have a long-term plan to reside in a specific area, purchasing a house might be the best option. Instead of paying rent, home ownership may allow you to build equity in your home. Furthermore, you may use house hacking techniques to speed up your financial success. Phew! That was a lot of information to take in. But now you know the answer to the question. Is a house an asset? If you're still on the fence about home ownership, be sure to consult with a financial advisor. They can help you understand if home ownership is the right choice based on your specific financial situation. If you want to learn more about finances, consider subscribing by clicking the big red button below and ringing the notification bell to get notified when we upload new videos. Feel free to like and comment your thoughts so we'll know your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, and see you again in our next video.